Today's about a tool, not a person. Um, and it's not a complicated tool, right? No batteries, no screen, no moving parts to speak of. Just a sealed tube of glass or plastic filled with usually some neon liquid and a little bubble of air. You've seen it, a level, carpenter's level. Picture a carpenter, right? Framing a house. He sets a long wooden beam in place, steps back, lays a level across it, and the bubble drifts. He doesn't argue with it. He doesn't get offended by it. He doesn't say, well, it looks straight, and just keeps building. He trusts his $2 tool over his eyes because he already knows something that every good builders know. Eyes lie, the levels don't. So what does he do? He just adjusts the beam, checks again, the bubble drifts a little less, adjusts again, checks again until the bubble is dead center. Right? Just between those two little lines of etched glass. And then he drives the nail. Here's what I find fascinating about this tool. A level is only valuable for one reason. It's willing to tell you the truth, even when the truth is bad news. If a level said, you're perfectly level every single time, no matter what, right? It wouldn't be a level. It would just be a decorate. It would be worthless. Actually, it's worse than worthless. You would start trusting it and you would build your whole house crooked. The entire value of that little glass tube comes from its complete willingness to say, no, you're off, fix it. And I think that's something a lot of people miss. There's an older version of this tool, right? Still used in certain circumstances, but the plumb bob. It's a simple weight on a string. It's literally been used for thousands of years, all the way back in Egypt, to check whether something was truly vertical. No electronics, no opinions, just gravity doing what gravity always does, telling the truth, whether you want to hear it or not. And builders have always understood something that the rest of us usually resist. You can't trust your own self of level. Not because you're not smart, because everyone's eyes adjust to whatever they're used to looking at. Stand next to a crooked wall long enough, and it starts to look normal. You need something outside of yourself that isn't capable of adjusting its standard to just make you comfortable. That is the entire reason this whole tool exists. Think about how strange it would be if the plumb bob cared about your feelings. If it swayed a little bit less towards vertical, just vertical enough because it liked you, or because you'd had a hard week, or you really seemed like you're trying your best. It would be useless the moment it started doing that. Gravity does not grade on effort. It just tells you where true vertical is every time, the same way, for everyone. That's not cruelty. That's what makes it trustworthy. What I've noticed about people, myself included, we want feedback the way we want the broken level. We want it to always say we're aligned. So quietly, without ever deciding to, or maybe saying it out loud, we start surrounding ourselves with people who tell us what we want to hear. We stop asking the question we're afraid of the answer to. We stop reading the messages that might contain something we don't want to see. We skip the annual review. We avoid the friend who tells the truth. Oh, it's too direct. We curate a feed, a circle. We curate a feed and a circle of life that's engineered to always say the same thing back to us. You're level, you're fine. There's nothing here to fix. And it feels good right up until that wall bows and that door won't close. The whole structure inherits a tilt that nobody was willing to name early, back when it would have taken 30 seconds to correct. I do want to be careful here because there's two different kinds of people who tell you that you're off, and they are not the same. There is the critic with a hammer. All right? This person does not want to help you build anything level. They just want to point out you're crooked loudly, often in front of other people, and then walk away having accomplished nothing except making you feel small. That's not a level. Okay, that's someone using truth as a weapon. One of my friends, I'll leave out details, his father corrected everything. Every meal, every choice, career, girlfriend, haircut, constant correction in front of anyone who happened to be in the room. By that time that man was 30, he couldn't hear a single piece of feedback from anyone, even people who actually loved him, without his whole body kind of going rigid, right? Like his nervous system had learned one lesson: correction means humiliation. That's what a hammer does. It doesn't just fail to straighten the wall, it teaches you to flinch at every level for the rest of your life, even the honest ones. Now, the other side, there's the actual level, the friend, spouse, the coach, who tells you the truth because they actually want to help you build something that lasts. They're not trying to embarrass you. They're not trying to win. They're just refusing to lie to you because they respect you too much, because they love you, because they don't want that wall to go up crooked. And here's the part that's messed up. The tragedy is a lot of us can't tell the difference anymore. We can't tell the difference anymore. We've been hurt by so many hammers that when an actual level shows up, someone who genuinely is trying to help you, we treat them exactly the same way. Defensive, shut down, shoot the messenger. And so the real levels in our life eventually stop telling the truth. Not because they stop caring, because we've made it too expensive for them to keep doing it. I think about this every time I hear someone say their spouse nags too much. Sometimes that's true. Sometimes it is a hammer swinging without purpose and it needs to stop. Sometimes, more often than I would like to admit, what we're calling nagging is just a level that's been ignored so many times it's started raising its voice. Nobody wants to be the level that's shouting the same reading over and over and over. But if the beam is never getting corrected, what choice does that level have? It's not level yet. It's not level. The fix usually isn't the level to be quieter. It's finally adjusting the beam. Same things happen at work. An employee gets the same piece of feedback 3 reviews in a row. And instead of hearing, hey, here's where you're off, they hear, my boss doesn't like me. So they get defensive. Or they leave for a new job where nobody knows to give them that feedback yet. And they carry that same tilt into the next building. And I think that's actually one of the saddest patterns that I do see. Someone spends 5 years running from a hard truth by changing the scenery, new job, new city, new relationship, new gym, new everything. And the one variable that never changes is the person holding the level. So the same beam goes up crooked in every new building. Every new time they go to frame something. And they genuinely believe it's the building that keeps failing them. There's also a level that nobody else can hold for you, and that's inside our own head, right? Inside our own mind. Some of you know exactly what I'm talking about. That quiet 2-second moment, usually late at night for me. Usually when it's too quiet for noise to drown it out, where you already know that bubble is off. Already know the relationship needs a hard conversation. Already know the drinking's more than just unwind. Already know whatever you've been lying to yourself about, why you haven't left, changed, started, stopped. And most of us are professionals at looking away from our own bubble the second it drips. I am. We get busy, we get distracted, we reach for the phone, anything, so that we don't have to hold still long enough to actually read what that level's telling us. But the level doesn't stop being accurate just because we stop looking at it. I think this is actually the hardest level to trust. Harder than like a friend or spouse because there's no one else to blame for the reading. You can dismiss a hammer, right? Oh, they're bitter, jealous, having a bad day. You can't dismiss that quiet 2 a.m. version of yourself the same way. That voice isn't trying to hurt you. It's not competing with you. It has nothing to gain by lying to you. Which is exactly why it's one of the voices most of us have gotten the best at ignoring. Here's a sentence I want you to catch yourself saying, or some variation of it. I don't need anyone telling me how to live my life. It sounds strong, right? It sounds like independence. But listen to what it's actually doing. It's not rejecting one bad piece of advice. It's rejecting the entire category, every level, forever, on principle. Because occasionally a hammer swung at you disguised as a level. So I don't need anyone. That sentence does not protect you. It just guarantees the wall goes up exactly as crooked as it already was. Here's the part that should worry every one of us a little bit. A wall that's off by half a degree at the base. Half a degree. It does not look wrong at first. If you're looking at the base, honestly, having built a lot of things, you can barely see it. It looks close enough. But as that wall keeps going up, beam on top of beam, story on top of story, half a degree ignored at the bottom becomes 6 inches by the time you get to the roof. The door won't close. The whole structure has to be torn down back to the beam that nobody was willing to correct on day one. This isn't a story about carpentry. I want to be fair to the version of you that avoided the level, okay? Most of us did not avoid it because we were careless. We avoided it because somewhere along the way, someone made the, oh, you're off a degree, feel like you're worthless. And no one wants to feel that feeling twice. No one wants to volunteer for that. But those two sentences are very different. You're off a degree is information. You're worthless is a verdict. The level only says the first one. A true level only says the first one. Every time we hear that second one, that's not the level talking. That's an old wound translating, or that's a hammer. That's the number that should get your attention. Half a degree over the height of an average 2-story wall. Doesn't add up to 6 inches by accident. It compounds the entire way up. Every new beam getting stacked on top of a foundation that was already off. So every correction after that has to fight that original mistake just to get back to level. And most people never do. They just keep building on top of that tilt, hoping everything evens out on its own. It never evens out on its own. It will never even out on its own. In fact, it only gets way more expensive to fix and harder to fix the longer that it's ignored. I think most of us, the mess in our lives, whatever's your may be, started as one small correctable tilt that somebody at some point decided wasn't worth the discomfort of fixing. So here's what I want you to sit with this week. Not, am I perfectly level? None of us are. And the carpenter doesn't expect it to be either. Does not expect every beam to be. That's what the level is for. The level is for this question. Am I still willing to look? Are you still willing to hold that tool up against your own life, against every beam, and let it tell you the truth, even on the days you're hoping it says something else? One last note about the carpenter too. He doesn't get angry at the bubble. He doesn't take that reading personally. He doesn't feel ashamed the beam isn't there yet. He doesn't just quit building after the first, it's worthless. He just adjusts the beam, checks again, adjusts. I'm sure you've done this. Shelves in your house. You don't start this, or we're never going to have shelves. You just tweak it. Oh, okay. Oh, wait, don't put the nail in yet. That's the posture I want you to borrow this week. Hopefully you can eventually own it. Not shame when the bubble drifts. Just willingness to check again. Every beam starts a little off.